Windsor, United Kingdom, September 16, 2025. The crisp autumn air over Windsor carried both ceremony and spectacle as US President Donald Trump began his second official state visit to the United Kingdom. It was no ordinary diplomatic arrival. From the moment Air Force One touched down earlier in the day to the historic drive into the grounds of Windsor Castle, this visit was layered with symbolism, politics, and controversy. Waiting at the castle gates were the future King and Queen Consort of Britain, Prince William and Princess Catherine, a gesture of protocol that carried immense significance. Their presence reflected both the formality of tradition and the delicate balancing act facing Britain's royal household in a turbulent global moment. The couple greeted President Trump and First Lady Melania Trump warmly, exchanging smiles before leading them into the heart of Windsor. Minutes later, King Charles III and Queen Camilla extended their own welcome, marking the start of 3 days of diplomacy, ceremony, and political manoeuvring. Cameras captured every second as the motorcade swept through Windsor's ancient gates. Trump, dressed in his trademark dark suit and red tie, stepped out with visible confidence. Melania, in a cream-coloured dress, walked beside him with deliberate poise. The image was striking. The American president standing shoulder to shoulder with the heirs of one of the world's oldest monarchies. For Trump, whose political brand thrives on spectacle, this was a moment designed for history books. For the royal family, it was an act of continuity, maintaining the apolitical dignity of the crown even in the face of controversy. The military band played the US national anthem, followed by God Save the King. Trump placed his hand over his heart, while Charles stood tall, eyes fixed forward. This was not Trump's first time at Windsor Castle. His earlier visit in 2018, during Queen Elizabeth II's reign, had been fraught with awkward optics and political tension. The sight of Trump walking ahead of the late monarch had stirred global criticism. This time, however, the choreography was tighter. Every movement appeared rehearsed to avoid missteps. Royal aides were determined that this visit would project stability and respect. But behind the carefully staged images lay a complex reality. Trump's second state visit was not just ceremonial, it was geopolitical. Few US presidents are invited twice for such honors. The decision underscored both the importance of the US-UK relationship and Britain's attempt to maintain strong ties during uncertain times. On the agenda were trade negotiations, defense cooperation, and coordinated responses to ongoing wars in Gaza and Ukraine. Prime Minister Keir Starmer, facing mounting pressure at home, prepared to balance the optics of hosting Trump while managing domestic protests and parliamentary opposition. Trump, for his part, was expected to use the visit to reaffirm his America First stance while pushing for deeper bilateral agreements. Observers anticipated tough talk on energy cooperation, NATO spending, and transatlantic trade. The royal welcome, therefore, was not just ceremony. It was political theatre designed to set the stage for weighty discussions. Outside Windsor's walls, the atmosphere was less harmonious. Thousands of demonstrators gathered in London and other cities holding placards that read, "No to Trump," "Resist racism," and "Not welcome." Police prepared for large-scale protests expected to unfold over the 3-day visit. For Trump's supporters, however, the visit symbolised international respect and recognition. Pro-Trump rallies echoed across parts of Britain, framing him as a leader unafraid to challenge global norms. The royal family, as always, walked a careful line, hosting the president as a matter of state duty, while steering clear of political commentary. For King Charles III, still early in his reign, the visit carried a personal dimension. His mother, Queen Elizabeth II, had hosted every US president since Eisenhower except Lyndon Johnson. Continuing that tradition was both a duty and a legacy. Trump, in turn, relished the grandeur. The optics of being received at Windsor Castle, not once but twice, offered powerful imagery for his political base back in the United States. As the presidential couple walked with the royals across Windsor's manicured lawns, photographers captured moments that would dominate front pages. Trump shaking hands with Charles, Melania and Catherine exchanging smiles, William engaged in quiet conversation with the American president. The US-UK special relationship has often been tested but rarely broken. From Winston Churchill and Franklin Roosevelt to Margaret Thatcher and Ronald Reagan, the bond has been central to global politics. Trump's second state visit underscored that continuity, but also the tensions of the current era. Britain faces a post-Brexit economic recalibration, while the US remains entangled in multiple international crises. The symbolism of Windsor Castle, a fortress of history and continuity, contrasted sharply with the uncertainty of the present. After the ceremonial welcome, the delegation moved inside Windsor Castle. Private meetings were scheduled between Trump and King Charles, with discussions expected to touch on climate change, international security and transatlantic cooperation. Though the palace did not release details, sources close to the royal household suggested Charles was particularly interested in emphasising environmental commitments. Trump, known for his scepticism on climate accords, would likely tread carefully. Later in the evening, a lavish state banquet was planned in St. George's Hall, a setting of grandeur with long tables lined with silverware, chandeliers and historic portraits. Such dinners often provide a stage for carefully crafted speeches. As the day unfolded, leaders from both nations prepared remarks. Trump was expected to emphasise US strength and partnership with Britain. Charles, by contrast, was likely to frame the relationship in terms of shared history and values. International observers pointed out that the world was watching not only the words, but also the body language. Every handshake, every smile, and every pause would be scrutinised for meaning. Beyond Britain, Trump's arrival stirred headlines across Europe, the Middle East, and Asia. Allies and rivals alike sought to interpret what the visit meant for global alliances. Some analysts argued that the royal welcome signalled Britain's pragmatic approach, hosting Trump despite political risks at home. Others viewed it as a reaffirmation of the US-UK bond at a moment when global institutions are under strain. In the end, the images told the story. America's president welcomed by Britain's royals, set against the backdrop of Windsor Castle's centuries-old stone walls. For supporters, it was proof of enduring prestige. For critics, it was a reminder of political polarisation. For the royals, it was simply duty, an act of hosting that transcended politics. As night fell over Windsor, the grandeur of the day gave way to anticipation for what lay ahead. Banquets, bilateral meetings, and public demonstrations would shape the next 72 hours. But the first impression was already sealed. Trump's return to Windsor was one part ceremony, one part politics, and entirely history in the making. What made this visit remarkable was not just the presence of kings and presidents, but the delicate dance of tradition and politics. A reminder that in diplomacy, every gesture is a message and every image a legacy.